You stared down the previously darkened alleyway. The figure of the dark-clad man was long gone from behind the bright blue flames that he released from his hand. You were heading right for you. Oh, they were heading right for you, moving closer and closer by the second. Yet all you could do was stand there, frozen. Just a week ago, you wouldn't have been anywhere in this situation. In the past 3 years working at UA, you would constantly stop doing hero work the entire week of the sports festival. As a hero course teacher, you had a lot of responsibilities in the event, helping to prepare the students, organizing the eventual events each teacher was assigned to. This year, you had the awful job of handling the press, and then your responsibilities at the event itself. Surprisingly, your water manipulation quirk had a lot of use in preventing the most unruly quirks in students. Of course, once it was all over, your regular hours had been taken up by another hero, so you ended up having to take less desirable patrol areas at the early hours of the morning. And as you looked across the hundreds of darkened buildings and empty sidewalks, you would see why nothing happened. Admittedly, that should be a reason to leave anyways unprotected, but it was an often factor. I guess it'll be a nice way to ease into things. You stretched as your arms above your head until you felt a pop before continuing on. Everything felt eerily still. It was almost entirely silent except for whatever noise your shoes or clothes made as you walked, and some distant sirens, not to mention your surroundings were only lit by the dim street lights, which were also frequently broken. I need to start organizing those internship requests. Ugh, that's a lot of work. Maybe I'll take Aizawa's advice and just take a nap during class. You let your thoughts wander elsewhere to ease this steady paranoia. I should start making lessons plans for next week. Wow, I'm really... Piercing through your thoughts was a loud clatter from somewhere not too far away. The loud sound alerted you to look up just in time to notice frequently fading shimmer of blue. Your eyes trained on the light while your feet carried you towards it. As you suspected, it was hardly a block away from your previous location in an alley between two abandoned buildings. There was a figure standing there. The dark cloak cloaked most of their features. The only real identical this person was counted of the flesh of blue, of the insect stomping on the cardboard box that flickered with blue flame. They don't look dangerous right now, you thought, and there isn't anyone else here that could be in danger. Excuse me? You moved towards the entrance of the alleyway. Is everything all right here? The person movement halted instantly as they placed their foot back onto the pavement. The blue flickered slowly died down afterwards. A hero? Huh? They spoke. Their voice was deep and almost sinister sounding. What was that? You asked them to repeat. They raised a hand up, mildly entering the light. You could see now that they were kind of scarred, purple, burnt skin, and that seemed to be stapled holding it. What a shame. You could see their face move into a grin. Their teeth eerily reflected the streetlight, and suddenly those bright blue flames were directed at you. Each end of the flames flickered out towards you like desperate hands, but they moved slowly, crawling even. You began to raise your arms as even a weak line of protection, but they even were moving slower than the flames. Slowly the blue flooded your vision and warmth surrounded you. You waited for it to get painful hot, or whatever it would feel like when a person burns alive. Instead, it stayed the same comfortable warmth before just stopping altogether and leaving you with the now cold of the night. Your eyes fluttered open, and everything was the same. Even your hero costume remained largely intact, but that was largely the work of UA's costume department. What? You can't help but question as you looked at your unharmed hands and sleeves. Did he do that on purpose to mess with me? What was the point? You thought. Nonetheless, you had to act. This guy just tried to kill you after all. Luckily, the water source your costume held had stayed mostly intact. The water flowed out from the sides and surrounded him tightly. I don't know what that was, but you're coming with me. You moved to get your phone in order to call the police. Interesting. They spoke. Your eyes shot up to the villain. The light reached him, much better now, and fully showed his appearance. He was, in fact, wearing dark clothes, and even had dark, spiky, black hair. You had been right about those scars. They covered his face, and the space under his eyes were the same staples, holding it to his clear skin. Once you turned your attention away from his skin, you noticed his arm. It had easily slipped through your water barrier. In seconds, his whole body had slipped through. Hey! You were doubly thrown off now. Not only had his fire not harmed you, but your water seemed to not do just much. Looks like we're perfect opposites. The villain was slowly moving closer. I wonder what else that means. He threw the first punch. It missed you, but the phone in your hand, flying through the air and hitting the ground with a loud crack. You sent a kick his way in response, as well as a poor attempt to knock him over. Unlike him, your foot connected with his skin. He stumbled slightly, but only by a few steps. Didn't even hurt. The villain was quick to use your prior distraction as an advantage to grab you by both of the arms. It was an unusual reaction that was soon explained by the large waves of flames that shot out from either hand. The warmth returned around your arms, with the hottest spots being where his hands were located. You didn't let it last long this time, as you sent a mass of water to push him away. As before, the water was somewhat successful in making the man stumble back, but it was quickly reformed past his body. I don't know what you're going for here, you said, but I'm not letting you get away. Sure you won't. His grin was back as he made another attempt to grab you. You weren't even going to mention how we're soulmates. Soulmate? You didn't even get a chance to finish your sentence as something hard hit your head and you fell to the ground. Aw, did you really only take one hit? The blonde girl whined as she dropped the metal pole to the ground. Where Toga got it from, Dabi didn't even want to know. Can I stab them now? She looked at Dabi. No, leave them. Dabi stepped past you and to get your phone that was still on the ground. Why not? Toga whined from afar. Not even a little? Dabi didn't bother answering as he picked up the phone and looked to see if it still worked. Despite the heavy cracks, the screen lit up in perfect connection. He moved back towards you and pressed your thumb against the phone till it unlocked. I'm calling the police. Dabi chose to answer. What? Come on. They're just some random hero. The blonde continued while weakly attempting to grab at the phone. Dabi was much taller than the high schooler, however, and her attempts proved to be unsuccessful. You'll get it when you're older. He patted her head. If you're calling the cops, can I stab her then? Just a little bit. I'll only be a little blood, she pleaded. Go get the patrol guy over there, unless you want to go to jail. Dabi ignored the girl once again. Jail would be more fun than this, she muttered, but wandered off to call Karagiri. Dabi dialed the familiar emergency number not long after. You'll reach fire and medical service. What seems to be the... you've reached fire and medical service. What seems to be the problem? There's a hero passed out on this name street. Dabi silently explained before hanging up. He let the phone drop to the pavement beside you, without a care if it broke even further. Let's get out of here. Dabi moved back towards Toga, who was standing before one of Karagiri's purple-edged portals. Sirens began far off in the distance as Dabi watched the scene disappear behind him. You woke up without much connection, as if you weren't even been asleep for a second ago. With recollection, you allowed your eyes to open and adjust to the lights of your room. The remains of a headache settled at the back of your brain. I really hate taking night shifts. You brought a hand up to your forehead, as though it would help, and felt a tug on your arm. What's that about? You looked down only to see a familiar piece of white, medical tape, and a tube. An IV. Quickly you realized you weren't in bed at home, but instead in a hospital bed. You tried to look around for any clue of what got you here. There wasn't even any bandages on your body, noticeable scars, or even a new bruise. Clearly there wasn't anything noticeable wrong, so you began to search for any nurse's clipboard. Your search was short-lived, as a first clue you found was your phone. A rather destroyed phone at that. Your memories were hazy, but you could recall a bit now. A strange man, heavily scarred, had a fire quirk. Your quirk didn't work on him, and his didn't work on you. You weren't even going to mention how we're soulmates. The guy's deep voice reverberated in your head. Soulmates. You thought over the words. You had heard it before, although it was incredibly rare. People who were true. Fated partners would be unbelievable to physical hurt each other, with the quirks or otherwise. You suspected since you began your job at your colleagues Aizawa and Yamada's were soulmates. The dark-haired teacher hated loud noises, yet he wouldn't even flinch or cover his ears when Yamada would use his quirk right beside him. But you didn't doubt that nearly 15 years ago the two had known each other must have made Aizawa at least practically death. As for the incredibly rare part, it was entirely uncommon for soulmates to ever meet. Unlike romantic novels, they weren't any sort of telltale spark that inclined you met your soulmate. They could just be any random person you passed on the street, and it was entirely possible that you'd pass that person once ever and never see them again. Not to mention, there were few situations where people could go around hurting others for long. Is my soulmate really a villain? You wondered. He could have just been trying to show me off. That doesn't explain why my quirk didn't work against him, though. He was emitting flames from his own hands, so he wouldn't be able to manipulate elements. That's not how quirks work. Your thoughts scrambled. The phone had started to lit up. The screen looked like it had been shot, and some parts were entirely glitched out, but it was miraculously still functioning. The contact coming in was simply Yama's full name. You still felt weird about addressing your fave older adult co-workers as anything other than their names. Hello, he answered. Lynn, you're alive! You couldn't quite tell if you were just hearing his quirk-enhanced voice from the phone, or if you could hear it all the way from UA as well. Everyone was calling you, and you weren't picking up. You didn't even call Nezu about not coming in, or Namiri about being hungover. Are you alright? Did you get hurt? The man rumbled. Azashi, calm down. You could frankly hear in the background of some man's rambles. Aizawa must have been there too, since classes didn't start for another 15 minutes. I'm fine. Just another villain attack. I guess I was out for a while, he replied. A villain attack? Yamada paused. Shota looked at every news website there is, and you know I mean everyone, and he didn't see any news about it. Well, I mean, they didn't really hurt me a lot. I think I just got hurt over the head at some point. I'm not sure, but it's probably wasn't anything newsworthy. Also, it's like the middle of nowhere, you explained. That could be pretty serious. I came over to wherever you are right now. You could already hear the shuffling of the blonde getting ready to leave. Yamada-san, thank you for your concern, but I'm also an adult. I'll probably be discharged not long from now, too. And you have classes soon. You remembered the man before he was already sprinting down the sidewalks of Masutafu. Are you sure? It's no worry. My students would be happy to skip English for today, Yamada insisted. It'd be really helpful if you told Nezzy why I can't come in today instead, you offered. Will do. Text me when Yamada started, but was lucky stopped by Aizawa once more. You aren't their dad, Hazashi. I'll see you tomorrow, Lynn. The blonde sighed in defeat. As much as you loved how kind Yamada was, he definitely took your several-year age difference as a reason to take a parental role around you. You were the youngest teacher at UA, by far, after all. I'll see you tomorrow, Yamada. I'll text you if I need any help. You replied before hanging up. After the call, you looked towards your bedside for a nurse call button to try and speed up the process of getting out of here. A nurse entered your room not too long later. From that point, you managed to get some more information. You'd been found out with a minor head injury from a hit. It was easy healed by a healing quirk man, and a man had called you in, but no one was present when the medical service arrived. Do you remember who was around when you got attacked? We have law enforcement on hand to keep a lookout from them, the nurse asked. I'm not sure, you asked. I can't really recall the person who attacked me, but I'm sure there were 2 people there. She nodded. That's all right. Especially with a head injury, your memory was likely a bit affected. Be sure to take some Tylenol if you feel any pain, and she continued the usual explanations about how to take care of yourself afterwards before finally letting you leave. You changed and get the discharge paperwork at the front. All the while, you couldn't help but wonder why you were protecting that man. You could remember his face and appearance very well, but you couldn't bring yourself to describe him. You don't even know if that whole soulmate thing was serious. I mean, the quirk thing was weird, but it isn't impossible, right? You thought to yourself. Really? As promised, you returned to teaching the next day. Much to your surprise, a lot of your classes had written a get well card for you. Well, it seems students were a bit divided on which cards to write. Some saying get well, others simply said thank you cards. Even Sho got his students to write you a card, Yamada proclaimed as you entered the teacher's workroom and placed around 20 cards into the box of homemade cards you received already. The man in question didn't respond to the allegations, nor deny it. You smiled as you looked down at the colorful decorated cards of the first years, with the exemptions of some more emo students, as approximate the cards as you were. It was a bit awkward to carry home on the train, and you had no clue what to do with them as you get home. It'll be a waste not to read them all, you thought as you set the box on your dining table. I have time until patrol. Wasn't too hard to get your patrol location changed to a more busy area after that event, but with that, your patrol time pushed even later. You grabbed a drink and took a seat as you picked the first card off the top of the pile. The writing on the front was pretty minimalistic and messy, but you didn't expect much more out of high school students. The inside was pretty monolithic, too, with many sloppy messages. I'll see you soon, soulmate. As you read the message, your heart dropped to your stomach, and a cold sweat washed over you. The hell? You looked around your apartment as if you'd seen a firework villain. Of course, no one was there, but it creeped you out. Maybe those claims about a traitor are more serious than I thought, you worried. There was something else on the card, except in the far bottom corner, a signature that seemed to be read, Dabi. Is that the guy's name? You wondered. Sounds like an elf. You quickly threw the card in the lid of the box, hoping it would fall to the bottom of the box in the back of your brain later.